Kakadosh, Boker Or, Daf Yomi Masechet Sanhedrin. We are on Daf Pe Amud Aleph. This is going to be 80A1. Okay? We were just on the bottom of Ayin Tetam, the last line, the last two words where it says Amar Rava. Yeah, Rava comes and he says it's following. Ihachi, if so, if you're going to tell me that the Mishnah is talking about a Rotzeach that was not Nigmar Dino, that he got mixed up with other Rotzchim, that they were Nigmar Din, which means that you have a murderer that he was not convicted yet, but he got mixed up with other murderers that were convicted, or a shor, an ox, that was not convicted with others that were convicted. That's why it says, even if it's going to be my father Abba Khalafta is going to be them. What's the difference? What is the Rav Yossi coming to be mechadesh? So he says, what's he coming to make a novelty? What's the chidush basically? If basically they're all murderers, so what do you want then? Right? So he says, Elama Rava, but rather Rava comes and he says, right? He says like this. He says, Hachi Kamar. This is what I mean to say. Shnaim shayu omdim. What happens if you have two people beside each other? V'yatza chetz mi benehem ve'arag. How? Yeah, and all of a sudden you have a chetz that comes out and kills. Yeah, shnehem pturim. They're both going to be patur because we don't know who is the one that threw the chetz. That says Rabbi say even Abba Chalafta is the one that says right that he knows that for sure it wasn't that he was the one that threw the chetz. Still, both of them are going to be patur. Fine. You have two people that they're right beside each other. Imagine right now a chetz comes out. So nowadays we don't speak about chitzim, which is an arrow. We're speaking about a bullet, right? Kadur. Imagine right now, boom, somebody shot, but you don't know who was the one that shot it. So says the Gemara, shneim going to be pturim. They're both going to be patur. Here he says, you know what the chidush is? Says Rabbi Yosef, even if Abba Chalafta is one of them, so therefore, do you think that he was the one that shot the arrow? Abba Chalafta, do you think that he was the one that killed? A big rabbi is there. You think he was the one that shot? No. Still, they're both going to be patur because I don't know which one it was. I've got two people beside each other. One of them shot out the arrow. I don't know who it was. Even if Abba Chalafta is there, both of them are going to be patur. V'shor she'arag, right? We're talking about a shor she'nigmar dino, she'nitareh b'shvanim acherim me'alya, right? So he says that they did not kill, so klinotan. They're going to be sokel, all of them. So he says, if you don't man, no, we put them into the kippah. You remember the kippah was we put them in jail, we let them eat barley until their stomachs are going to explode. So says the Gemara Vatanya, we learned in a Braita parim, right? Shemita ve'achar kach yalda. What about if you have a para that killed and then afterwards yalda? If she gave birth before, not give birth, she gave birth before the verdict. Uvlada, right? So therefore, vlada mutar. So the child is mutar bana. But if it was after nigmar din yalda, vlada asur. You're not allowed to benefit from the child, from the fetus. Nitarev ba'acherim. Now, if that one got mixed up with other ones, and that one with other ones, you bring them all into jail until they're all going to die. Right? Yeah, you put them in. Basically, you're locking them up, and you're locking them up until they're all going to die. So he says, Rabbi Lazar b'Shimon Omer, mevi'in otan lebedim v'soklin otan. No, you actually do sekila to the shores. Okay? Fine. Next, says the Gemara. Amar Mor. Yeah, Mor says, Imad shelo nigmar dina yalda uvlada muteret. So if there was no Gemar din yet, the verdict, so therefore the child is going to be permitted. Af al gav dechinagcham hava miyabra. Now, even though when she gored, she was pregnant, correct? When she gored, she was pregnant. Yes. So he says, Amar Rava says, Vlada nogachat asur, the vlad which is nogachat is going to be asur still to bring it to the korban. He vlada nachu, vlada nirbat asur, he vlada nibu, because basically the child is part of the mother. So everything was done as part of the mother, meaning that the child also gored. The child also did everything. He was part of the mother when the mother gored, or when the mother did the bestiality, right? The reviyah. And therefore, obviously, it's going to be asur to bring as a korban. So says the Gemara, no, until the Gemar Din, she became pregnant and she gave birth. Vlada mutar, then she's going to be mutar. But even she Gemar Dina, right, Ibrav Yalda, Vlada asur. Meaning sometimes it used to take time until you have a verdict. And until time that you actually get the animal there to court and you're going to testify and you're going to do all these things. So therefore, what happens if at the time that she gored, she was not pregnant? And then what happened was she's pregnant and she gives birth. but it was before the Gmar Din. So you had a 9-month period, right? Obviously, Behema Daka is 5 months, and Behema Gasa is 9 months of pregnancy, right? So the Behema, the big animals, it takes also 9 months of pregnancy. What happened is that there was that period of time in between. So she became pregnant and she gave birth before the Gmar Din. So in such a case, since the child, the fetus was not there at the time of the goring, so therefore that's why it's going to be mutar to benefit from the fetus and to bring it as a korban. But if it's going to be that the child was in the stomach during the time of the goring, so if you're not allowed to use the child whatsoever, not even for a korban, because he was also part of the of. So says the Gemara, Hani Chalaman Damar. This is good to say ze veze gorem asur, that if both of them cause it, it's going to be asur. Pe'amud bet. What are you going to say? Which means like this. There's a famous machloket to do with many, many different things. What happens if I have ze v'ze gorem? Meaning I don't have one cause. I have a few causes. Of what? So for example, in this case, right, who was the one that gored? The mother. But I'm going to say that it was also the child. So that's called ze v'ze gorem. Both of them are causing it. So if you're going to tell me right now that ze v'ze gorem is a sur, so therefore if you have isur and eter together, right, and it's good, so then it's going to be a sur, it makes sense our case. Because you have the fetus, right, and you have the mother, and it's ze v'ze gorem, and it's going to be a sur. That's going to be fine. If you're going to tell me now ze v'ze gorem is going to be mutar, why is the Braita telling me that the child is prohibited? He says, even if he was the one that was there, ke'ilu, it's isur ve'eter biyachad. The isur is the mother. The mother is the one that gored. The child is in the stomach. If you tell me ze v'ze gorem is a sur, so even though, right, did the child really do anything? The child didn't do anything. The child is just in the stomach of the mother. Miskan, what did he do? But the fact that this and this causes it, meaning that they're both together, you have isur and eter together, they're both going to be asur, so it makes sense. But if you're going to tell me when you have two different things together and it's ze v'ze gorem is going to be mutar, so what do I care now about the fetus? The fetus should always be mutar, because it was the mother that did the avera, not the child. So why is the child punished for what the mother did?
The fact that she's pregnant make her mad and
Daf Pe'amud Bet, yeah, 80b, says the Gemara. Elama Ravina, but rather Ravina says, Ema, I wanted to say, Iman shelo nigmar dina ibra v'yalda v'lada mutar, Iman shelo nigmar dina ibra, u'mishenigmar dina yalda v'lada asur, ubad yerech imohu. He says, but what happens right now like this? Says Ravina, before the nigmar din, it had to become pregnant and give birth, and then the blood is going to be mutar. But if it was going to be before the Gmar Din, it became pregnant, and now you have Gmar Din, the Vlad is still going to be a Sud. You know why? Ubad Yerechimo. The child is an extension, is like the thigh of the mother. This, by the way, with this halachot, we learned the concept of tevilah. For example, a woman converts and she's pregnant. Does the child have to convert? So when she converts, the child is like the thigh of the mother. So it's considered that the child is converting with the mother. You understand? So he would become Jewish, yes. Meaning that he doesn't have to, no, but he's considered again. But, right, he's considered a convert, but he doesn't have to convert again. Meaning the fact that the mother converted and he's in the stomach of the mother, so he also converted with the mother.
automatic.
Yeah. Yes, the tevilah works for both. Okay? Fine. So that's why ubad yerechimo, that's the concept of that a child is the yerech, is the thigh of the mother. Okay? Fine. Next, kol chayve mitot. We said anybody that's chayav mitot betin, that they get mixed up with each other, you always give them the lighter punishment. Okay? Says the Gemara, Shema mina, we learn from here. Mutrel devar chamur, mutrel devar kal. It comes out that when they warn you for something very bad, you're automatically warned for something light. What does that mean? If you remember, we always said, right, that whenever a person is going to get killed, they need to be warned. But here, they were warned for one thing, and at the end, they're only going to get a lighter punishment. So therefore, it comes out that the Gemara is bringing a proof. You see from here, so if I warn you for something much stricter, you're automatically warned for lighter, which means that. Imagine right now I come and I tell you, if you're going to be over on this avera, you get sekila. Now, it's not true. You would only get serifa. Right? So it's a lighter form. From this Gemara, we're bringing a proof that the fact that I gave you a warning which was stricter, you're automatically warned for something which is lighter. I cannot go the other way around because then I would have said, listen, if I would have known, I wouldn't have done it. If I come in and tell you you're going to be Mechalev Shabbat, you're going to get lashes, and really you get killed. You say, listen, I didn't know. What do you want from me? I wouldn't have done it then, right? So you're patur. Or the same thing. You would have gone in chenek, or you would have gone in hereg. Yeah, but I didn't know it was sekila. You should have told me, because it's much stricter. But the other way around, what happens? What happens if I tell you you're going to get the worst punishment, and then at the end, I'm only going to give you a much lighter punishment? You're still warned, because a warning for a stricter punishment acts as a good warning even for a lighter punishment. Okay, because that's what just happened here. Because here you were warned for a stricter punishment. You got mixed up with a whole bunch of other people, and now we don't know who to kill. So now we give them the lightest punishment out of everybody there. Okay, so Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah says, what are we dealing with? You're going to Stam. No, what happens if they only gave Hatra'ah without telling you which one? They warned you. They told you, listen, there's a death penalty. But they didn't tell you which one. Maybe that was the case. And if that was the case, there's no proof anymore. No. So you're going to be chayav, but the lighter punishment. But it's not a proof that if you're warned for a stricter punishment, you're warned for a lighter punishment. So it says the Haitana who the Tanya was learned to the Braita. They're only going to kill them with 23 dayanim. Ve'edim v'atran. You always need witnesses and you need a warning. And until they're going to tell you that there's going to be chayav mitot betin, meaning like this. Yeah, everyone's listening. There's a machloket when I come and I want to kill someone. Is it enough for me just to come and tell them, listen, if you do this avidah, you get killed? Or I have to tell you which death penalty? So that's Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, Ad shiyudiyuhu be'eze mitahu ne'erag. You have to tell him with which death he's going to be killed. But the Shitav Tanakama, right, is even without that. The Shitav Tanakama is going to be even without that. As long as I tell you you're going to be killed, that's already enough. I don't have to tell you which death penalty. So Tanakama, he's going to learn it from the Mikoshesh. Why? Because the Mikoshesh, we didn't know which death penalty it was. And still we warned him, don't cut wood on Shabbat. This was Tzilofchad, if you remember, during the time of the Midbar in the desert. And what happened was that Tzilofchad came and he was Mechalel Shabbat. So we came and we had to kill him. But we didn't tell him which death penalty, because we didn't know which death penalty. So therefore, the Tanakama is learning from the Mikoshesh that just like over there, we warned them, but we didn't know which death penalty. So therefore, you're going to be chayav. The person will still chayav mita. Same thing by us.
They did it on purpose.
Yes. Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, Mikoshesh horaat sha'aita. Says Rabbi Yehuda, what are you talking about? Mikoshesh was a special one-time halacha. So if it's a one-time halacha, I can't learn from the Mikoshesh for everything because it's a special deen. So it's not the same. Okay? 2 dots. Until you're clear. Yeah? Very good. Says the Gemara. Haniskalim and Israfim. What happens if you have people that were mixed up? Sekila and Serefa. Which one's more strict?
Yeah.
According to everybody?
According to...
very good. You guys have to tell me. I'm not a dentist here. I don't have to pull out the teeth. No, you guys have to tell me. Sekila according to Rabbanan. And Serefa according to Rabbi Shimon. You have to tell me that. So says the Gemara, Matni la Rav Yecheskel Rami Berei was teaching Rav Yecheskel to Rami his son, and Yisrafim ben Iskalim. Rabbi Shimon Omer Yadunu biskila shesrefa chamura. Amale Rabbi Yehuda says of Yehuda, right, to the son of Rabbi Yecheskel, Abba, lo titnei, don't teach like that. My idiot, whoever told you that the srefa is chamura, tebekulei deruba niskalinu, right? It comes out that the majority of the people are going to come for sekila. So go by the majority then. Yeah? So he comes and he says, Ela hechetni. So how do you want me to teach it then? Meaning like this, what he's trying to say is, why are you telling me because one of them is more strict or one of them is more thing? Just tell me what's the majority. If you're going to tell me that the majority is going to be with sekila, right? So therefore, you should judge them for sekila, right? Because if you're going to tell me now that sekila and serefa, both of them are even equal, what do I care? Go to the majority. Even if they're equal, go by the majority. So he told him, so how do you want me to teach it? Haniskalim v'nisrafin Rabbi Shimon Omer yadun miskila shesrefa chamura, because serefa is more chamur. Yeah? So he comes and he says, Everyone understood what happened. Go back to the beginning of the Gemara.
They get mixed up.
Yes, but it said who got mixed up to who?
It was Sekila and one Serefa.
Exactly. But you know why? Because what was the terminology used? Look at the Matni le Rav Yecheskel le Berei Hanisrafin baniskalin. The ones that were chayav serefa got mixed up with the ones that were chayav sekila. What does that mean when I come and I tell you? What does that mean? The majority. The majority are sekila. That's like coming and telling you, right, that Anedota Mizrach got mixed up with here. With who? With, let's say, for example, all the Moroccans. So who's the majority? The second one. So a Nisrafin got mixed up with the Niskalin. If you're going to tell me now that the Nisrafin get mixed up with the Niskalin, obviously you should give them Sekila because of the majority. So even if they were going to be equal, you would still give them Sekila. Says the Gemara, you're right, you have to switch it around. The Niskalin got mixed up with the Nisrafin. And still you would give them Sekila. Even though the majority are Serefa. He says, why? He says, because it's a lower one. That's why. Well, we're in Rabbi Shimon. This is Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon Omer. Rabbi Shimon Omer. This is only Rabbi Shimon. Right? So says the Gemara, if so, Ema Seifa, let's say the Seifa. Chachamim say, Yadunu Bisrefa. Give him Srefa because Sekila is more Chamur. So why don't we just say, why don't we just say the majority? Go after the majority. What do I care about what's more Chamur or not Chamur? Go the majority. The majority were Serefa. So give him Serefa. So answers the Gemara, Hatam Rabbananu de Kamer Rabbi Shimon, the Didach Ramarta Serefa Chamura, Lo, right? He says Sekila Chamura. He says, there the rabbis were going in Shitat Rabbi Shimon. Le Didachta Marta, according to you, that you just said Serefa is more Chamur, right? And therefore we cannot kill with Serefa. Lo, it's not true. Sekila is really more Chamur. Meaning, you're right. I could have just said we go by the majority. Meaning, why is it that we're going to kill them with Sekila, right? Or Serefa, for example? Because there's a majority of people who are chayav Serefa. So you give them Serefa. But I didn't want to mention that. Okay? So Elmaleh Shmuel of Yehuda says Shmuel to Rav Yehuda. Shinena, sharp one. Right? Pe'alef Amud Aleph on the top. Right? 81a on the top. Lo temaleh lavu chachi. Don't say that. The Tanya was learned to the Braita. Resha Yaviv. Over al divrei Torah lo yomalo Abba avart al divrei Torah lo melo Abba kach katuv Torah. A person should never come and correct his father by saying, by the way, you were just to transgress an avirah in the Torah. You should say, Abba, this is what's written in the Torah. You don't tell him you did an avirah. Ata avart al divrei Torah. It's not respectful. So he said, this is what's written in the Torah. So therefore, he comes and he says, you shouldn't have tell him, don't teach it like this, but teach it like that, because that means you're correcting your father. So it's not respectful.
Also cannot correct your rabbi, right?
100%. Same thing. So sof says the Gemara, Hainuach, but it's the same thing, right? Avart al divrei Torah, or the chiyafeh at the end of the day, you're still. So he says Ela, but rather you have to tell him Abba mikra katuv b'Torah kachu, which means he's just saying it like he's not saying it as a question. He's not challenging him. He's saying it as if like he's just like mentioning something. You know, like he was mentioning something, respectful way. Why? Because he cannot challenge. That means even whether he's going to challenge and say, by the way, you're wrong, or challenge, by the way, it's written in the Torah. If he's challenging it, it's disrespectful. So if you have to say it in a nice way, that it's like benichuta, you're just saying a sipur, you're saying a story, right? It's written in the Torah. This is this. That's it. And then he's going to understand what's going on, obviously. Okay.